Today, Jesse Matthew Jr. pled guilty to the first-degree murder of Hannah Graham. Guilty to the abduction with intent to defile Hannah Graham. Guilty to the first-degree murder of Morgan Harrington. And guilty to the abduction with intent to defile Morgan Harrington.
A college student vanished into the night after leaving a small party. 1 month later, in a remote forest in Albemarle, police discovered that she had lost her life after being restrained and suffocated. The man seen with her on camera ultimately paid the price with 4 consecutive life sentences. Hannah Graham, born on February 25, 1996, was a British-American sophomore, the daughter of John and Sue Graham, and the youngest child in a family with an older brother named James. When Hannah was 5 years old, her family moved to the United States, settling in the Stratford Landing area of Fairfax County, Virginia, a peaceful neighborhood once known as River Farm, which had been owned by George Washington. Hannah grew up in a loving family, surrounded by warmth and strong values. She was a cheerful, intelligent, and lively young woman who loved life. Hannah was healthy, musically talented, and radiated such positive energy that everyone around her could feel the joy she carried. In every photo of her, from childhood to adulthood, her smile was ever present, and her eyes were always filled with hope. With her intelligence, kindness, and strong desire to live fully, Hannah was seen as someone destined to accomplish extraordinary things. She had a bright future ahead of her. On the night of September 12, 2014, around 9:30 p.m., Hannah left her apartment at the Grand Mark complex to meet up with friends. The group planned to visit the Fig restaurant in Charlottesville to chat and have some drinks, and surveillance footage captured them there for the last time at about 10:48 p.m. Hannah went to Camden Plaza Apartments on 14th Street to attend a small gathering. Throughout the evening, she mentioned to a friend that she wasn't feeling well and was thinking about heading home early. One friend offered to walk her back, but she declined. The distance from the party location to Hannah's apartment was only a few minutes on foot, but when she left around midnight, she accidentally walked in the opposite direction, toward the downtown area, where the Tempo restaurant was located just a few blocks away. Surveillance cameras showed Hannah walking past shops and bars in the downtown Charlottesville mall, appearing alone and somewhat disoriented. By this time, it was already the early morning of September 13th. At about 12:44 a.m., surveillance cameras still showed Hannah wandering alone. Just over 10 minutes later, at 12:56 a.m., she sent a message to a friend saying that she was lost and not feeling well. According to witnesses, Hannah had consumed quite a bit of alcohol, which impaired her awareness of her surroundings, a dangerously vulnerable state, as she was completely alone in the middle of the night. Around the same time, in another part of Charlottesville, a 32-year-old man named Jesse Matthew, a part-time taxi driver and operating room technician, was walking through several bars after drinking at the Lazy Parrot. He had reportedly acted inappropriately and made some women uncomfortable, accounts that those women later confirmed. That night, Matthew's path and Hannah's fatefully crossed. At first, he merely passed by her, drawing no attention. But when he saw an opportunity, Matthew turned back and began following her, intoxicated and disoriented. Hannah was in no condition to recognize the danger. Surveillance footage showed her stumbling, appearing lost, while Matthew approached, placed his arm around her shoulders, and the two walked off toward the Tempo restaurant. There, Matthew was seen entering the bar and purchasing 2 drinks, though it's unclear whether Hannah followed him inside or remained outside. Some witnesses claimed to have seen her sitting with Matthew, while others said she stayed near the entrance. The last message Hannah ever sent, "I got stuck down though," left her friends confused, as it made no sense at all. It was exactly 1 a.m., and that was the last time anyone ever heard from Hannah Graham. On the morning of September 14th, when no one could reach Hannah, her friends began to panic and immediately contacted the police. The last time they had heard from her was around 1 a.m. on September 13th, and since then, Hannah's phone had gone completely silent. This alarmed everyone, as Hannah was never the kind of person to disappear without telling anyone. She was responsible, punctual, and always kept in touch with her friends and family. When the entire group confirmed that none of them had seen her, fear quickly set in. Police immediately launched an investigation, enlisting both state and federal authorities to coordinate the search. Hannah's disappearance quickly made headlines. As in the years prior, several women had gone missing under mysterious circumstances in the Charlottesville and Albemarle County areas. Now, everyone understood that time was critical. They had to find her as soon as possible. Investigators began collecting every piece of surveillance footage from across downtown, patiently piecing together each moment of that fateful night to retrace Hannah Graham's final movements and, more importantly, to uncover who she had been with.
Hannah Graham, where are you? We want you back where you belong. We love you more than you know, and we cannot wait to see you soon. Sending our infinite love, Lonnie, Katie, and your UVA family.
So did you know Hannah? Were you friends with her?
Well, Erin, I lived on her floor last year, but I didn't really have a close personal relationship with her, but I knew who she was.
How did you feel when you found out that she was missing?
It was shocking. This is such a big school, and no one really hears about this type of thing, and it was just really hit home because I actually knew who she was as well, which just really shocked me.
Is knowing her the reason that you're here tonight?
No, definitely not. I think I would have come no matter what. Everyone's been so supportive this whole time. It's just been it's been great to see support from everyone.
Hundreds of people gathered on the campus of the University of Virginia for an emotional candlelight vigil to show love and support for Hannah Graham and her family. The glow of the candles flickering through the darkness became a symbol of hope, that Hannah would somehow return home. But it didn't stop there. Many residents, students, and volunteers came together to organize community searches throughout the Charlottesville area, walking through every street and wooded path in hopes of finding any trace that could lead to the young woman. Hannah had always been someone who brought positive energy to those around her, caring for and helping others, and now, those very people were doing the same for her. It was a moving display of humanity, faith, and the strength of a community united in a moment of despair. Jesse Leroy, Matthew Jr., often known as LJ, was born into a poor family and faced many challenges from a young age. He was bullied in school because of his stutter and struggled academically. However, through determination and exceptional physical ability, Matthew earned a full football scholarship to Liberty University. It seemed like a fresh start for his life. But behind his calm exterior lurked a darker, unpredictable side. In 2002, Matthew was accused of inappropriate behavior toward a female student on campus. Before facing any consequences, he quickly left Liberty and transferred to Christopher Newport University in 2003. Yet just a year later, history appeared to repeat itself. Matthew was accused again in another serious assault case. The victim's identity was never revealed, but the incident forced him to leave the university permanently. From then on, Matthew drifted through various jobs, one of which was working as a taxi driver in Charlottesville, Virginia. That job made him familiar with every street and hidden corner of the area, a chilling detail when his name later became linked to one of the most heartbreaking cases in the city's history. In 2005, in Fairfax County, a young woman went through a traumatic ordeal when she was attacked by a man while walking home after shopping. According to her statement, he threatened to harm her if she didn't comply with his demands. Fortunately, the woman survived and was immediately taken to the hospital for treatment, where forensic samples were collected. From there, investigators were able to obtain a DNA sample from the scene and build a profile. However, the results showed that it did not match any suspects in the national database. Terrified by the horrific experience, the woman decided to leave the United States and return to her home country of India, hoping to start over in a safer place, though the trauma from that night remained a deep and lasting scar. Ironically, those who knew Jesse Matthew often described him as gentle and always willing to help anyone in need. Friends said he had a kind heart, while women who had dated him remembered him as charming, soft-spoken, and affectionate. Yet behind that facade lay a completely different truth. Matthew had been accused of involvement in numerous serious assaults, with at least 12 identified victims. The contrast between the man he appeared to be and the one he truly was left everyone in disbelief. One former girlfriend revealed to police that Matthew had endured a deeply painful childhood, suggesting that he had been taken advantage of in the past. According to her statement, he was exploited by 3 different individuals during his elementary school years, one of whom repeatedly harmed him and forced him to keep it a secret. A psychologist once commented, "There's no doubt that repeated emotional trauma during childhood contributed to his distorted behavior later in life." Although his family and friends never fully confirmed it, Matthew himself admitted that he had experienced severe mistreatment as a child. If true, that might partially explain the shift in his personality, from a seemingly gentle man to someone psychologically broken, embodying 2 sides of the same person, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The question remains, was it his nature or his environment that drove Matthew down the dark path leading to his own downfall? Matthew's father was an alcoholic who was often absent from his son's life. In 2006, he was even arrested for inappropriate behavior in public, leaving Jesse with a distorted image of what a father figure should be. A lost, irresponsible parent. That was what Jesse grew up with, and perhaps it played a part in shaping the darker corners of his mind. When a child grows up in a chaotic environment, witnessing a father's downfall, the question arises, will they choose to rise above the past and become better? Or will they be dragged into the same shadow they once feared? On September 19th, detectives officially obtained a warrant to search Jesse Matthews' apartment. The man the media had already nicknamed the suspect who went back to school. During the search, police seized a cell phone with its SIM card removed, along with several personal items of interest. Among them was a pair of men's shorts, and forensic analysis revealed the presence of both Matthews' biological traces and Hannah Graham's DNA inside. In addition, forensic experts discovered Hannah's DNA on the passenger side door of Matthew's car, clear evidence that she had been inside his vehicle. These discoveries began to bring the entire case into focus. There had been direct contact between Hannah and Matthew, and his apartment had now become the central point of a large-scale investigation. The following day, detectives obtained a second search warrant to return to Jesse Matthews' apartment, believing there were still crucial pieces of evidence yet to be found. Although Matthew had not yet been formally charged in connection with Hannah's disappearance, it was clear that he was the last person seen with her on that fateful night. The search lasted for hours, and when it concluded, investigators left with several bags of evidence, including Matthew's Galaxy phone, bedding, pillows, clothing, toothbrush, hair samples, wallet, cigar fragments, and fibers suspected to hold forensic value. When a third warrant was later issued, police seized an additional pair of white shorts, a chestnut-colored shirt, and a towel with suspicious reddish-brown stains. Matthew's orange Chrysler Sebring was also impounded for examination. K9 units were brought in, and their findings were chilling. The dogs detected Hannah's scent near the rear exit of Matthew's apartment, on the passenger side door of his car, and close to a trash bin outside. Piece by piece, every detail began to align, painting a grim picture of what might have happened on the night the young woman vanished. On September 20th, Jesse Matthew unexpectedly showed up at the Charlottesville Police Department and requested to speak with an attorney. However, he refused to cooperate or provide any information related to Hannah's disappearance. Shortly after leaving the station, Matthew got into his car and sped away before detectives could react. A nationwide manhunt was launched immediately. Investigators later discovered that before fleeing, Matthew had obtained a new driver's license and withdrawn nearly all the money from his bank account. Clear signs of a carefully planned escape. An official warrant was issued, along with a detailed description. A black male in his early 30s, with dreadlocks, a goatee, standing under 6 feet tall, and weighing over 260 pounds. At the time of his flight, he was reportedly wearing a white shirt, black jeans, and driving his sister's blue Nissan. Meanwhile, Matthew's family pleaded for him to cooperate with police and help the Graham family find the truth. His aunt, Alice Fletcher, told investigators that the entire family was doing everything they could to assist, as they were heartbroken to know that Hannah still hadn't been found. Around the same time, Hannah's father, John Graham, appeared on television, his voice trembling as he made an emotional plea to his daughter.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is John Graham. I'm Hannah's father. My right here is Sue, Hannah's mother and my wife. As this nightmare for Hannah, for us, Hannah's big brother James, her grandparents, and for Hannah's extended family continues, we would like to make this statement. We have been utterly overwhelmed this week by the generosity spirit of everybody we have met, and many more besides who we've been unable to meet. We understand that over 1,000 volunteers have been out home in Charlottesville looking for our girl, yesterday and today. Similar number of wonderful people are out, today searching. Sue and I were out searching yesterday. So were some of our work colleagues, our friends, our neighbors from our home. Hannah's friends from softball, Hannah's friends from the high school team, and many others. But the effort is much wider. Members of the Charlottesville community have turned out and forced help. Armies of Hannah's university friends have been helping.
On September 24th, after several days on the run, Jesse Matthew was finally located by Galveston County Police at a secluded beach in Texas. When discovered, he was staying in a small tent beside his sister's blue 1997 Nissan Sentra, the same car he had used to flee Virginia. A local resident recognized Matthew's face from a television news report and immediately called 911, allowing officers to quickly arrive at the scene. Matthew was arrested on the spot without resistance, and an extradition order to return him to Charlottesville was issued shortly afterward. Investigators from Virginia promptly traveled to Texas to take custody of the suspect. By that time, Matthew had been officially named as a suspect in the disappearance of Hannah Graham. Authorities also announced a $100,000 reward for anyone providing information that could help locate the missing student, while the entire nation continued to follow every chilling development in this haunting case.
You know, the reward to find missing Hannah Graham is now up to $100,000, but the man charged with abducting her is now behind bars. We want to show you two key pieces of video from Galveston, Texas, but first take a look at this. This is the new mugshot after being arrested and booked. We know 32-year-old Jesse Matthew had been in Texas since at least Tuesday, because here he's seen walking into a convenience store. Police say he purchased bug repellent spray.
After his arrest, Jesse Matthew was taken into custody at the Charlottesville-Albemarle Regional Jail, where he was held without bail. Meanwhile, The search for Hannah Graham continued. Desperate yet determined, hundreds of volunteers, law enforcement officers, and K-9 units tirelessly combed through the outskirts of Charlottesville, clinging to the faint hope of finding the young woman alive. But on October 18th, more than a month after Hannah's disappearance, a heartbreaking discovery was made. Investigators found human remains on a wooded property along Old Lynchburg Road in Albemarle County. It was a dense, isolated area behind an abandoned house rarely visited by anyone. As police expanded their search around the site, they uncovered additional matching evidence, confirming that this was indeed where Hannah Graham had been left, shattering the last remaining hope and marking the most painful chapter of the entire case.
Today, teams back out searching for more clues. ABC's Bazi Kanani has the latest from Charlottesville. Tonight, police sealing off what is now a crime scene after the discovery of human remains that could be 18-year-old Hannah Graham. The usually emphatic Charlottesville police chief somber, explaining more tests must be done to confirm the identity and thanking searchers.
Near the site where the remains were found, investigators discovered several items that led them to believe they belonged to Hannah. A crop top and jeans identical to the outfit she had worn on the night she disappeared were found scattered nearby. The shirt was turned inside out, and one pant leg was in the same condition, as if they had been hastily removed. Police also recovered a wristwatch, but her cell phone, shoes, and undergarments were missing. A nearby resident provided crucial information. On the morning of September 13th, they had seen a strange car backing into a small road behind the property, with the gate closed and no one visible inside. Upon inspection, police confirmed that the vehicle belonged to Jesse Matthew, having worked as a taxi driver in the area for years. Matthew knew Charlottesville's geography intimately, including its deserted roads, wooded areas, and hidden spots rarely visited by anyone. That knowledge allowed him to choose a location secluded enough to conceal the harsh truth of what he had done. The remains were transported to the examination facility of Dr. Kevin Whaley in Richmond for an autopsy. After analysis, he determined that the victim had lost her life due to violent force, most likely from being restrained, which led to suffocation. The examination also revealed 2 fractures in the nasal area, believed to have occurred shortly before her passing, indicating that the victim had endured a severe assault. The final conclusion confirmed that the remains belonged to Hannah Elizabeth Graham. When the DNA samples were compared, the results not only proved that Jesse Matthew was directly connected to Hannah's case, but also uncovered an even more shocking forensic link. His DNA matched evidence from another case that had taken place in October 2009, the disappearance and tragic loss of college student Morgan Dana Harrington. In January 2010, nearly 5 months after Morgan Harrington disappeared, her remains were discovered on a 742-acre property known as Anchorage Farm in Albemarle County, Virginia. The farm's owner stumbled upon them while checking a remote part of the land. At first, he thought he had found animal bones, but as he got closer, he was horrified to realize they were human remains and immediately called the police. The investigation quickly determined that Morgan had lost her life in a violent incident. What shocked everyone was that the location where Morgan's body was found was only about 6 miles from where Hannah Graham's remains were later discovered, a distance far too small to be a coincidence. Subsequent forensic testing further strengthened that chilling connection. The DNA found on Morgan's shirt was a perfect match to Jesse Matthews' profile, and even more astonishingly, it also matched the DNA from the 2005 Fairfax assault case. 3 cases, 3 women, were now linked by the same trace of one man, whom investigators believed had spread fear and tragedy for nearly a decade. The question that haunted many was, What could have turned a man once described as kind and hard-working into the perpetrator of such horrors? Experts suggested the answer lay in a combination of genetics, psychological trauma, and a lifetime of destructive choices. Like many serial offenders, Jesse Matthew was a product of his environment, his past, and the darkness he could never overcome. On February 10, 2015, after months of investigation and a series of confirmed forensic findings, Jesse Matthew was formally charged with 2 serious offenses: first-degree homicide in the case of Hannah Graham, and abduction with intent to degrade the victim. Prosecutors announced their intention to pursue the highest possible penalty, the death sentence. However, Matthew's defense team quickly proposed a plea deal in which he would admit responsibility for both the Hannah Graham and Morgan Harrington cases in exchange for avoiding capital punishment. When news of the proposed deal reached the families of the 2 victims, they met to discuss it. They were heartbroken and outraged to learn that the suggested sentence was only 25 years in prison, a punishment they felt was far too lenient for the devastation Matthew had caused. 2 young women had lost their futures, and their families were left with grief that would never fade. For them, justice could not be measured in years, but in truth and the accountability the offender must bear. On March 2, 2016, Jesse Matthew ultimately accepted a new plea agreement. Under its terms, he officially admitted to causing the deaths of both students, Hannah Graham and Morgan Harrington, in exchange for the death penalty being removed from consideration. The deal ensured that Matthew would serve life in prison but would not face execution. Matthew's family was present in court. They offered an apology to the families of both victims and pleaded with the judge for mercy, expressing hope that although he would pay for his crimes, he might still have the chance to repent and reflect for the rest of his life behind bars.
More than 6 years after Virginia Tech student Morgan Harrington was found murdered not far from where we're standing tonight, Jesse Matthew has now confessed to the crime. He also confessed today to killing Hannah Graham more than 5 years later in 2014. Now, by signing that plea agreement to both their murders, both their abductions, he has avoided the death penalty.
The trial of Jesse Matthew proceeded swiftly, lasting less than 3 days since he had already signed the plea agreement beforehand. As a result, the court sentenced Matthew to life imprisonment under the strictest conditions: no possibility of parole, no release due to old age, and no eligibility for pardon. He was ordered to serve 4 consecutive life sentences, meaning he would spend the rest of his life behind bars. In addition, Matthew received further sentencing for the serious assault that occurred in Fairfax County in 2005, where his DNA had been confirmed to match the evidence collected from the scene.
Today, Jesse Matthew Jr. pled guilty to the first-degree murder of Hannah Graham, guilty to the abduction with intent to defile Hannah Graham, guilty to the first-degree murder of Morgan Harrington, and guilty to the abduction with intent to defile Morgan Harrington. Matthew will serve the maximum penalty for each of these offenses, 4 additional consecutive life terms. He has waived his right to appeal or withdraw his plea, and waived any right to petition for early release, conditional release, geriatric release, or any type of parole. In exchange, the Commonwealth null pros a capital murder charge against him. However, the Commonwealth reserves the right to re-indict this charge without time limitation should the terms of this plea be violated. This agreement serves the interests of justice. It ensures public safety and offender accountability with the plea of guilty, 4 consecutive life terms, and the elimination of any possibility of release. It serves the interests of justice by providing a joint resolution consistent with the wishes of the Graham and Harrington families that avoids the additional re-victimization associated with highly public.
When Judge David Schell delivered the sentence, he emphasized that Jesse Matthews' actions toward his victims were exceptionally cruel and demonstrated an almost unimaginable level of brutality. He described the crimes as acts that caused profound pain not only to the victims' families, but also to the entire community, immediately after the verdict was announced. Matthews' mother broke down in tears, screaming, and had to be escorted out of the courtroom by security officers in a state of collapse. Matthew himself remained silent throughout the proceedings, occasionally whispering to his attorney, but showing little emotion. Before the trial concluded, he asked his lawyer to convey his apology to the families of Hannah and Morgan, expressing deep remorse for what he had done and for the irreparable suffering he had caused them. Meanwhile, a representative of the Harrington family stepped forward to share their feelings about the court's decision.
I'd like to make it very clear that Mr. Tracy did consult us as the plea agreement was negotiated, and the agreement concluded today has our full support. Our overriding priority was that Matthew will never be able again to inflict his depravity on young women. The agreement meets this objective, which we regard as a public safety imperative. Matthew's deeds show that he is far too dangerous ever to be allowed to be free. The agreement also spares Hannah's friends who would have been witnesses, the community, our family, and us, the re-traumatization that a 4-week trial would have brought.
The finality and accountability that has been achieved today with this plea agreement will allow our family to redirect energy into healing and recovery. Both are areas that we have neglected during our quest for justice for Morgan. It has been a very long journey to this point.
After the trial, Hannah Graham's parents, John and Sue Graham, embarked on a new mission: to fight for changes in the law that could prevent similar tragedies from happening again. They urged Virginia lawmakers to expand the scope of DNA data collection so it would no longer be limited only to serious offenses. Back in 2010, Jesse Matthew had been arrested for an assault, but at the time, the charge did not qualify for mandatory DNA sampling. Had the law allowed for DNA collection even from minor offenders, authorities might have been able to connect him to previous cases and prevent what happened to Hannah. John Graham shared that if such a DNA monitoring system had been in place earlier, their daughter might still be alive, still pursuing her dreams and living the life she deserved. For that reason, the Graham family has remained steadfast in their advocacy to expand the statewide DNA database so that no parent would ever have to endure the same heartbreak again.
They're testifying before the State Crime Commission, pushing for enhanced DNA collection in the Commonwealth from people convicted of certain misdemeanor crimes.
Doing the utmost possible to remove dangerous sex offenders and murderers from the streets of this country is a very basic part of protection of the people.
Jesse Matthew was convicted of murdering Hannah Graham in 2014. 4 years beforehand, he was convicted of a misdemeanor. Hannah's parents say if the change was in place, she would still be alive.
Jesse Matthews' DNA being taken on his conviction for criminal trespass, then he would have been in jail where he rightly belonged.
He wouldn't have been roaming the streets of Charlottesville looking for victims, and Hannah would still be alive.
To honor Hannah Graham, her friends, family, and the University of Virginia launched several meaningful projects in her name, including scholarships for students and an annual softball tournament celebrating Hannah's positive spirit. Her family's advocacy also helped inspire legal reform. In June 2018, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam officially signed a law expanding the list of misdemeanor offenses eligible for mandatory DNA collection, allowing authorities to identify and stop repeat offenders before it was too late. Around the same time, the mother of Morgan Harrington, who had lost her life under similar circumstances, founded the nonprofit organization Help Save the Next Girl, dedicated to raising awareness among young women about potential dangers in society and teaching them how to protect themselves. The Harrington family also funded a scholarship at Virginia Tech and helped build a school in Africa, both named in Morgan's honor as symbols of hope and compassion. While the families of the victims turned their pain into positive action, on the other side, Jesse Matthew, the man responsible for the chain of tragedies, remained behind bars. In December 2020, he was transferred from Sussex State Prison to a hospital in Richmond after being diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. His health had severely deteriorated, and he was placed under strict supervision by law enforcement authorities.
The man responsible for the murder of 2 Virginia college students has been transferred from Sussex One State Prison to a hospital here in Richmond. Back in 2016, Jesse Matthew Jr. confessed to the murders of Virginia Tech student Morgan Harrington and University of Virginia student Hannah Graham. In May 2019, he revealed to our Laura French he had been diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. At this time, we know that Matthew has been transferred to the MCV Hospital Security Care and remains in custody of the Virginia Department of Corrections. We do not know the reason he was sent to the hospital, but we're going to continue to bring you updates on this developing story as we learn them.
Gil Harrington, Morgan's mother, shared in an emotional interview, "We're not interested in revenge. While I appreciate the updates about Jesse Matthews' condition, we no longer wish to know anything about his inevitable passing. The only thing that matters to us is that he, the man who brought tragedy to so many families, has been stopped for good. And that, finally, has been done. His reign of terror is over." Her words carried no hatred, only closure, a small measure of peace after years of anguish. As of December 2022, Jesse Matthew remains alive, still serving his sentence in prison, with no further public updates regarding his health. The story of Hannah Graham and Morgan Harrington is not just a heartbreaking case etched into Virginia's history. It is also a profound reminder of how fragile life can be and how crucial it is to stay alert and protect ourselves in every situation. Both young women were symbols of youth, dreams, and light, but that light was extinguished far too soon by the darkness of selfishness and cruelty. From this tragedy, we learn that we must never ignore the warning signs around us, for even a single wrong decision can change an entire life. Let us care for, listen to, and protect those we love, so that no one else will ever have to endure the kind of pain that Hannah's and Morgan's families have faced. Thank you for watching today's story on True Crime Documentary, where we not only recount real-life cases, but also honor the innocent lives lost and remind one another of the true value of life. If you were moved by this story, please share the video. Leave a comment in memory of Hannah and Morgan. And don't forget to subscribe and hit like to support us in continuing to bring you truthful and meaningful stories. See you in the next episode of True Crime Documentary.